Well, I'm just going to start this, like, normal, because I'm sick of doing intros, because we've done this so many times. That I don't think I need to do an intro anymore. It's like, hey, Outer Circle's back again, But hello, folks. Outer Circle's here again. And today we're going to talk about a few controversial topics. Not really. We're just going to, like, wax lyrical about things that may annoy us on the internet, to be honest with you. I think we've covered a lot of topics, and what I've always wanted to do, and we've spoken about this before, is that we wanted to get together a bit more often for a little bit of a chat, and I do content a little bit that way, maybe, I'm not sure if it's going to be a podcast, what we're going to do, but, like, just get together and just, talk nonsense, basically. So that's what this is. We're going to talk a load of nonsense. And today, the main theme we're going to cover is YouTube shills, especially in the Warhammer space. I don't know whether you want to name people. I probably won't, because you guys can sort of pass through the lines who you think we're referring to, if you're going to refer to anybody. I won't. I don't like to mudsling, but there we go. It's just something a phenomenon that I've noticed in Warhammer YouTube. The more you are on YouTube, you do come across people who seem to... There are two sides of the fence. You have your Games Workshop defenders, the people who Games Workshop can do no wrong, and if there is a negative thing that happens, they go quiet. And then you have the people on the other side, who Mac has been accused of being, but he's not, and we'll get into that a bit later, where everything Games Workshop does is terrible, the whole hobby is falling apart, everything's going wrong, and everyone needs to leave right now and go and do something else, right? What do you think, Mac? Are you sick of the polarization of the hobby on YouTube? Or, I mean, who do you watch? Who's your don't say me. Who's your favourite YouTuber on for 40k for Warhammer on the platform right now? Would you say?
I couldn't name a person, honestly, because the content that's out there is not. A lot of it is not content. Like your content works for me because it's stories for most of the time, right? Or opinion pieces. That works well for me. I can't really sit there and watch many channels. Like maybe I might watch someone painting as like a relaxing, like ASMR type thing.
Yeah.
In which case, probably Ben Comets is my favorite, but he's not like just painting Warhammer. He mostly paints like scale figurines and stuff. Or I might watch like Night Shift, who's doing like military scale modeling. There's another one I've been watching lately who's a pretty new channel, and he's doing like 1 to 700 scale ships. I'm more interested in the modeling aspect and the relaxation of it. I can't sit there and watch like without naming names, I can't sit there and watch channels who are just like talking about the news or here's the latest model I was given by Games Workshop that I'm going to paint. Those I find a bit tedious, because you could almost AI the script of what's going to happen in the videos, and it just doesn't work for me, and I've been struggling myself creating content lately. I just haven't been putting anything out because I haven't felt like there was anything I could contribute. I don't know if you know that feeling or not. But, yeah.
I'm kind of lucky because I've got, like, my content is almost powered by the audience, so I don't really need to do that. Like, I get a hobby nightmare that's cool, I'll go, oh, I'll read that, cool, in terms of 40k rants, yeah, sometimes I've caught myself a few years ago doing rants for the sake of doing rants, and then I stopped. I was like, nah, this isn't what I want to do. I want to talk about things that actually affect me. I don't want to just do it for the content. And I made that decision quite a while ago, but I know what you mean, in that it can become a bit of a I have nothing new to say. But in terms of what you do, like, that's why it's important to have another gig aside from YouTube if you're going to be on YouTube. Because if this is your full-time thing, then you sort of have to do content to pay the bills. Whereas with your channel, you do it as a passion project. You're not bothered about anything like that. And so you can afford to go, do you know what? I've got nothing to say, so screw it. I'm not going to say anything. I have nothing to say, And that's cool. Like, that shouldn't be a negative thing, You should do content when you have something to say. I'm just lucky in the fact that my audience has a lot to say, and by extension, my channel has a lot to say, because it's, I don't know, that pivot worked a long time ago, but In terms of good YouTubers, you know, I'm more of a lore guy, so Voldemort is a big favourite of mine, mainly for his voice. It's just immaculate. Amber King as well. If you've ever wanted to paint to somebody, Amber King is probably the best Warhammer lore YouTuber in terms of quality of voice work, art in the background, music, audio. Just brilliant. His Argyle Tal episode, even though I've read the books, I still preferred his video over the books. The way he did everything and the voices he used. And when I came to actually listen to the Horus Heresy book, you know, like that Argyle Tal's in, the First Heretic and books like that, I was still listening to Argyle Tal's voice in Amber King's voice. That's how good it was. So there are good YouTubers out there, but they tend to be... Zorp is one I wanted to bring up, because he's from your neck of the woods. Well, in New Zealand, but you know what I mean. He does...
Yeah.
Modelling stuff, yeah. He's not a shill. Like, he goes all the way out there. His Helm's Deep and his Lord of the Rings stuff is amazing. That's a guy who's gone, you know what? Here's my entire life. It is now modelling. Like, this is what I do now. Like, his wife's got to be, like, long-suffering. Like, you know, all the styrofoam everywhere and God knows where else. But
He's alright. The thing, though, I have...
Yeah.
And this is not to throw shade either. This is just my 2 cents. But I find it hard to get into Zorp because so much of the stuff he's got is, like, you know, he did an Osgiliath table, for example. And did tons of epoxy resin on this table and the buildings. There was a few missteps made there that could have been very OH&S bad. So I work with resins every day. If you get too much resin in one spot at once that's wet, it tends to exotherm, can catch fire, is one of the things. So that's probably something that needed to be addressed in the video. Only because of the, you know, if people recreate that home, especially teenagers, and you burn down the house, I got a problem with that. Not to be, you know, raining on anyone's parade, but also the amount of stuff he got to make that table for free off Games Workshop that they sent him is dozens of kits and thousands of dollars worth in our local currency. And you know, it's all good and well for him to say, you know, I was sent this stuff by Games Workshop. It's like, you weren't just sent a little, you were sent like, you know, $3,000 of stuff. So, you know, there's sponsorship, like I got sent, you know, a 3D printer, or I got sent a box of miniatures, but when it's like a crate, you know, half a pallet of stuff, I don't know. To me, that's an awful lot of stuff. It needs more than like the standard disclaimer. So those sort of 2 things, and that's just in like that one instance. There was quite a few instances of this. But overall, the passion that I see there and the drive and the motivation to actually paint things and make things and get it done, I really respect that. So that's my 2 cents. Sorry for butting in.
No. You do it, man. That's why you're here. Like, we want to hear your opinion and stuff. So, all right, let's frame the argument then. Now that we're 10 minutes in. Let's frame the argument. What is a shill to you? How would you define it? Because you touched on it there. How would you define it?
I think a shill is a combination of a few things, but you can probably boil it down to, at its simplest, a person who is getting given stuff purely to promote the company that's giving it in a positive light, and to the degree that negativity is actively discouraged. So in my case, for example, I get sent the occasional 3D printer. I review it. I'm pretty fair in my reviews, I think, of my 3D printers. And I often have quite a bit negatives in there. I don't think I've had a printer that I didn't recommend yet, but every one of them came with some strict asterisks as to what was good or bad. And in every case, the 3D printers have been incremental improvements over everything that's come before, which is a huge part of why they get a recommendation. But on the other hand, you'll get, and the company that has sent them has kept sending stuff because it didn't matter that I'd given negative feedback. They didn't make me sign any non-disclosure agreements. They didn't say that I had to absolutely add certain phrases into my videos as a part of like any sponsorship deals or anything like that. And the first thing I do in the video is I say, I was sent this thing. Right, so very crystal clear. I'm upfront about it, and I'm able to give the negative critique in there. Whereas the shill will get given the item, but they don't put the negative in there. The worst thing they might say is, "Oh, I wish there was more of this weapon on the sprue." "Oh, I found there was a lot of parts in this kit." "Oh, it's been a bit tedious to build." Like, yes, they're negatives, but they're very backhanded. They don't feel like true criticism. Like, hey, you know that, let's pick like the Chaos Space Marine Havocs. You remember when they first came out? They had that rotor cannon.
Yeah.
And it was like 1 in the box or 2 in the box. Everyone was like, no, you want this thing, and you want everyone that can have it to have it in that box. Why aren't you selling multiple of it in the box? And the more cynical person would turn around and go, well, that's a legit criticism. Why are there, 4 heavy bolters or something, or 4 missile launchers, but only 2 of this weapon? All your weapons are used in 4s. Nobody wants to mix and match their weapons. Nobody ever does that. That's a legitimate criticism. And yet you don't see those kind of criticisms come out of shills. Shills will just be like, oh, it would have been great if there was 2 more weapons. They don't negative. You know what I'm saying? Like, technically they mention it, but they really don't mention it.
Yeah. So even like their drawbacks are, it'd be nice if we got this extra bit, but it's not a big deal if we didn't.
Yeah. Or I wish there was more of this symbol on the decal sheet. They don't say, like I would say on my videos, they wouldn't be like, it's bullshit that like the Night Lord's sheet is in sets of 8 when squad sizes are always 10s or multiples of 5. Why are you giving me 8 symbols? That's stupid. Right? That's how I would say it, and have in numerous episodes. People are afraid to give that kind of really direct. Like I said, it'd be the most minor of feedback if they go. They'd be like, "Oh, because there is only 8 symbols on this sheet, I had to get creative." They'll massage the language to get around.
That's literally what they say. I had to get a bit creative and freehand this one. Like, yeah. And why did you have to do that? Like, why did you have to spend all that time? Because they didn't give you enough
Just
in the past.
Just how it is.
Yeah.
Treat people like adults. That's all.
Like, I kind of, I think I've got a similar definition to you in terms of what a shill is. Especially when it comes to Warhammer. Because, listen, there aren't many, in the geekdom sphere, there aren't many monopolies quite like Games Workshop. People can say it's not a monopoly all they want. It is. Let's be honest. Like, in terms of the scale of the operation, there is no other company that is producing stuff. No other company can afford to give the amount of stuff away that Games Workshop do, right? So, in that pervasive monopoly, you can't... Shilling is a lot more damaging to our hobby than it is to, say, gaming. Because people who are video gamers are naturally very, very cynical because they've been dragged over the coals by corporations like EA for decades, right? But Warhammer's a very niche hobby. When you get in, you kind of take the rejection of Games Workshop with a pinch of salt, And I think the reason why I'm doing this video, and I asked Outer Circle to do this video, is because shilling to us is actually damaging to the hobby. Like, actually damaging. Because, number one, as Mako rightly pointed out, it can be dangerous. If you look at what he brought up about Zorp, like, if somebody says to you, like, you can do this with this kit. Oh, can I? No. You need $5,000 to do what I'm doing with this kit, but, here's what's possible, technically. You're not technically lying, it's, and things like that. So it is a lot more damaging to us than it would be for a video game. A video game is a one-time purchase, whereas there's a lot of time and effort that goes into collecting Warhammer. And let's be honest, it's bloody expensive. It's hugely expensive. And I think a lot of people out there who do shill in the definition that Mac was talking about, that is not just disingenuous, that is straight up dishonest. Like, it is getting to the point where we're now, not criminal. Obviously, it's not criminal, but it is really, really, really a crappy thing to do. So I did a video the other week, last week, where I talked about a Valrak, Chapter Master Valrak, and I said this on my live stream yesterday, but I get more views on this, so I'll say it now. I have no problem with Valrak as an individual. I think Chapter Master Valrak is a really cool person who likes Warhammer. He's just a lovely guy, right? He just, you know, he's always been fair to me, always treated me nicely. We've always had good conversations. And a few weeks ago, Maka, have you seen the new Blood Angels box? The one with all of the Death Company in it?
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I've just kept my mouth shut, apart from an odd meme.
So he did a video last week on that, but I'll get to that in a minute. I'm assuming you've seen Inquisitor Kotias, the new model that looks like he's a Fallout Brotherhood of Steel person who's put on a load of weight.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Yeah.
Wallace and Gromit's pants was helped more my sort of thinking, but yeah.
My favourite was Adeptus Diabetes, but we'll skirt that. So when that model was announced, and when the Agents of the Imperium Codex was announced, Valrak quite understandably came on and said, "This is nonsense. This is nonsense. This isn't even a proper codex. We don't have any new models apart from this one guy who looks terrible. Looks like he was sculpted by a 5-year-old. And this is supposed to be the biggest company in the world in terms of the hobby that we do, really. This is what they're coming up with." And in the codex, he quite rightly called it out. He said, "Look, we've got Grey Knights in here. We've got Sisters of Battle in here. These are armies on their own. Where are the Adeptus Arbites? Where are the PDF forces? Where are the Inquisitorial henchmen? Where are all of these other things? The rogue traders that you could put in here. Rogue traders are a massive thing that could be in this book. But Games Workshop have all of the wherewithal to make these models, to design these models, and bring out these things that people want to buy, and they don't do it. They always do the lowest hanging fruit. They don't respect you as customers." And I was sitting in the gym going, "Go on, Valrak, go on." Yeah, I was loving it, right? And I thought, this is great. Finally, that he's taking a stand against these dudes, and he does. Whenever they do something truly heinous, he will come out and call it out and go, "That's not right," you know. And then, not even a week later, the Blood Angels come out. Well, they're announced, and he does this gushing video. And don't get me wrong, you're allowed to enjoy stuff, and you know, we both get accused of, Maka more than me, unfortunately, but we both get accused of being downers on Games Workshop from time to time, unfairly. Well, whatever, you know. But at the end of the day, you're allowed to enjoy stuff, you're allowed to do videos, and if Games Workshop do something right, you're allowed to call it. Maka's done it in the past, I've done it in the past, and Valrak was doing it with the Blood Angels, no problem whatsoever, right? He gushes over the models, which I have a different opinion on, but that's neither here nor there. He gushes over the models, says they're brilliant, says the box is really good, and if you want it, it's going to sell out really fast, guys. So make sure you go to your local store, make sure you go and pre-order it, make sure you go and get it. And he said that. And that just rubbed me up the wrong way, because in the very previous video, he was talking about how FOMO was a bad thing, you know, and like things not being available for everybody was a bad thing. And then in the very next video, we have, you know, almost a complete about turn, an about face, and like, no, if you want to get this, you need to. And he's technically right, because it is limited. There is a limited number of them. He's right in what he's saying. If you want it, you need to go to your local game store and pre-order it and go and get it. But at the same time, it just felt icky to me that we just had this amazing video where he'd said all this stuff that's completely true, and called out Games Workshop for really bad practices in terms of, you know, customer facing their practices, and then all of a sudden, a video or two later, it's like, these are really good models, and if you want to get them, then you need to go and get them before they sell out. He's not a shill, I will say that, and a lot of people in my comment section were calling him out for being a shill. That's not true. Like, Valrak is not a shill, okay? If you're a shill, you don't ever go at Games Workshop the way Valrak does when it's time to. But what irked me was that on one hand we had, you know, Games Workshop are bad for doing this, and then in another video it's Games Workshop, you know, these models are great, fantastic. Used to happen with video gamers all the time, like they would ream out a publisher, and then as soon as they give you a whiff of the good stuff, it's, you know, oh, okay, well, let's go out and buy this now. You know, it just doesn't sit right with me. But that's the grey area. I don't know, Mac, have you ever come across that grey area where it's like, you know, that was a really, really poorly timed video, I believe, on his part there. But what do you reckon? Have you ever come across that grey area?
So a lot of people refer to Valrak as Shillrak.
Yeah.
I don't see him that way. I see him as almost my antithesis. Just someone who is trying to see the best in things. At the time, I'm almost seeing the worst in them. I don't know whether that's by choice or what have you. But with Valrak, you have a person who is so passionate. And the thing with passion is it can be contagious. And you enthuse your audience. And they will hit all the marketing of this stuff. And it has an impact, you know. For better or worse, you have an impact on your audience. In my instance, I try and say, like, hey, if you really think you want something, just sleep on it. You know, at least overnight, but preferably sit on it for a week. And you'll probably find at the end of that week, you're not still in the mood to buy that thing. Like, it'll have, that hype that you had sort of died off, and your brain is kicked back in and reminded you of what your actual responsibilities in life are.
What Mac is referring... Sorry, man, I just got to jump in here. What Mac is referring to is, like, have you ever met a woman who you're not sure if she's good for you or not, or whether it's just lust? Go in the shower, have some alone time, and then think about it. Is this what he's talking about? Very similar. Sorry, mate, carry on.
Yeah, no, so I have personally gone out of my way to make sure that people aren't coming on my channel looking at, you know, cool miniatures and then just going out and just instantly dropping a big wad of money on miniatures pointlessly. Like, I'm trying to preach that self-control, that restraint, because I think intrinsically people, you know, part of the problem is people who are in this hobby tie directly their own personal happiness to the hobby doing well. And you have to detach the two, you know, which is why so many people take exception when I point out the bad things that are happening in the hobby, because they take it as a personal attack because they've tied themselves and their own personality into the equation. And by the same token, you have channels out there like Valrak who are going, you know, get in there and get this stuff while you can, guys. Well, you're literally encouraging them to undertake behavior that could be considered detrimental to them. And I do have a bit of an issue with that. But that does not make him a shill. It makes him a person who is, you know, passionate about the particular product that he's talking about, and say to people, you know, I just want people to have fun and get this product and enjoy it. Which, you know, fair enough, but let's look at the underlying psychological motivations there. Not that we're doctors or can give advice and yada yada, but, you know, that's an issue I have there. But the thing is, the guy's made his career on YouTube. He has to pay his bills. We all do. But he's making his career on YouTube from pointing this stuff out and, you know, riding the hype train, and just so many videos of how cool is this model? How cool is this model? How cool is this model? Like, that's the reason people see him as Shillrak. Whereas I've made my career on YouTube, as it were, from saying this is shit, this is shit, this is shit, and that's why I'm the salty circle. So maybe I'm the wrong person to be, you know, making this call.
No, I don't know. Firstly, I love doing videos with you, but that's one of the reasons why it's almost like bad for me, because I did a point there, and I think I explained it okay. Then you came in and like put it in like crystal clear verbiage. Like, I wish I said that. So like, but yeah, no, I completely get what you're saying. Like, it is that is how it is. You know, I don't think you're that negative. I think you're more of a realist, and your passion is engaged in different areas. Like Valrak's passion is that guy down the pub who loves Warhammer, you know? And he's like, these models are great, these are so cool, look, all the toys, you know, look at the things, you know, that kind of a person. Whereas you're a hobbyist who's literally in there to create stuff. And being a hobbyist who's there to create stuff, your passions are engaged in a different area to Valrak's. Valrak's is there just for the cool stuff, right? And as I said in my answer before, is that I don't believe Valrak is a shill. I actually believe he's a very good YouTuber with a really good message most of the time, and you're allowed to enjoy stuff, as I said before, but neither of us are saying you're not. Completely, go and do what you want to do. You like what you want to like. But at the end of the day, you have a responsibility to the consumers who are watching your channel to not engage with fear of missing out with FOMO tactics as if they're not something that needs to be called out. Especially not when you've just done a video a few days ago that was calling it out as something that you shouldn't be doing. Do you know what I mean? That's I think it was a slip, but it's something that I had to call out. And he did come on the comment section. We did have a good conversation, and he didn't agree with me. That's fine. But at the same time, like, this is the last I'll talk about it, because it came up on stream yesterday, and I said I'd cover it again. That is my view on him crystallized. I think he's a great YouTuber. I watch him all the time. Especially if I'm in the mood where I want to be in the mood for Warhammer, I will go and watch Valrak, because he's like your hype guy, your corner guy. Like, you know, it gets you enthused for it. But there are some times when passion, quite innocent passion too, can be used by Games Workshop to push things on customers that aren't in their best interests, and fear of missing out tactics are one of them. So I don't think we're going to say any shill YouTubers that we believe are actual shills, because I think that would be doing things in a, how do we put it, not in good faith. You know what I mean? It'd be in bad faith to do that. But just be aware. I think what Mac has said before about the definition of a shill. If you go onto a YouTube channel and you see somebody saying, I got all the stuff from Games Workshop, you know, but I'm going to review it fairly. Listen, Mac, have you seen that NDA? Have you seen the NDA that they give you?
Yeah, I have. Depends which version of the NDA as well that you're referring to, because there've actually been, you know, quite a few over the years.
Yeah.
Which are all varying levels of, I believe the word is horrible.
Yeah. Even like copyright lawyers and employment lawyers, it's just they rip this thing apart. It's actually written in a way that most lawyers wince and go, wow, this has got so many holes in it, and this is not very well written. It's there to intimidate, and it's there to basically say, don't say anything bad about us, or, you know, we can come after you, essentially, and we can legally drag you through the courts, which, by the way, doesn't hold water. Take that NDA to any lawyer, and they'll tell you it doesn't hold water. Like, it just doesn't. It's really poorly written. It's full of loopholes. It's full of, you know, you can get away with what you want. But it will intimidate most people who are ignorant of such facts into giving Games Workshop good reviews. Remember what Mac has said before about good business practices, and that's somebody sends the Outer Circle a product and they say, hey Mac, why don't you review this for me? And you say whatever you want, and you can have it for free, not your payment. You can say whatever you want. How's that? You know, that's the kind of thing you want to do. That's the kind of thing where you want to review a product. But even then, shills on Warhammer channels are so pervasive now that it's hard to know who is honestly operating with your best interests at heart as a consumer, and who is just getting free stuff from Games Workshop, you know, or from whatever company they're covering that week. But if somebody has stuff from Games Workshop, this is how simple it is. If they've been given free stuff by Games Workshop, you cannot expect them to say anything negative in their video about Games Workshop or their products, because they've signed that NDA. And if they've signed that NDA, they obviously believe in its content. So as soon as somebody says, I got this for free from Games Workshop, in my opinion, back away slowly from any opinion they have on that product. Am I being too harsh, Maka, or do you think that's right? What do you reckon?
I don't think you're being too harsh. I think there's a bit to unpack there. So the first thing I would say is, if you have a YouTuber who has never covered a topic before, right? Let's pick an Age of Sigmar YouTuber, for example, and then suddenly they end up with a Horus Heresy box set, and they're reviewing the Horus Heresy game and telling you how it plays. whilst yes, that might be a good indicator to you if you're an existing Age of Sigmar player and you want to get into the game, for the majority of people, it's not really a fair review, because you've got people who don't really understand what they're getting themselves into, and they are judging the system. They might be starting in the wrong place with their judgment, and we saw a lot of this with like missions, for example. They weren't used to how the game played out and how the missions played in Heresy compared to the other game systems they were used to. Therefore, they really struggled and they were slow. And therefore, their feedback was, this is actually a very slow game, a bit monotonous, blah, blah, blah. Those of us that are used to it are like, how the fuck did you take 2 hours to do that? That's 15 minutes, right? Because we're used to it. So when they give a review, you've got to keep that in the back of your mind, like, hey, they are only just dipping their toes into this system. And therefore, the information they have might not be as useful to me as someone who plays this system full time. And in addition to that, look at the YouTubers and how they treat something post initial release and hype. This is something that doesn't get talked about enough. I revisit products. I will, if you follow me on like Instagram, whatever, I'll tell you what printers I'm using to perform particular jobs, for example. So I'll often go back to units I've used in the past, because I feel like that gives people an indication of how things are still going. If I'm still using them, 3 years after I reviewed it, it's probably an indication of reliability, for example, or that I'm satisfied with the product. Whereas many YouTubers got Horus Heresy box sets. What the fuck have you seen them touch in Heresy since? Like, that should be a clear indication to you that they literally just did it for the free shit. And they've not taken the time to get to know the system or the people in the system, or it holds no interest to them, and that it is entirely just for content. And when something's entirely just for content, how can you be sure that they really care about anything they're saying at all? The fact is, they're just going to put something out there regardless of how they feel about it, and please whatever hobby gods they need to in order to get out the door, so they get you, the viewer, to subscribe to their Patreon, to click subscribe on their videos, and to watch their videos in the first place. I know that may sound a little bit harsh, but we see so much of that. And it's detrimental as well to the hobby, because there are a lot of people who are so keen on buying into certain factions. Like, maybe they're like a big Black Templars fan. And they're like, I can't wait to get that big Black Templars box set. Oh, I've got to save my pennies. And they go into the store. Oh, no, they're all sold out. And they look online and they see 400 YouTubers who couldn't give two tosses about the Black Templars opening up their free box sets that have been subsidized by other hobbyists. You know what I mean? Like,
that's the thing.
It kind of grinds some salt into the wound.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And I feel very bad for the people in that situation.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just having a whinge here.
No, I think you're completely right. I mean, this is, again, you've taken one of my points that I poorly explained and explained it very well. You've sort of led me on to what I was saying before, and that is, our hobby is it is damaging. So it's one thing for a guy to say, I'm really into video games, I have another channel dedicated to video games, right? And it's one thing to have a guy, let's say Maka, let's say you do a video on Helldivers 2. This is the greatest thing ever, you need to go get this. Okay, cool. Well, if I want to get that game, I can just get it. No skin off my nose, right? If I want to get that game, I can just get it. That's not the same in our space, though, is it? In Warhammer. Because as you just said, what if somebody really wants Black Templars, can't get it from the store, can't get it anywhere, and then all of a sudden they see this guy, or whoever it is, on YouTube, getting one who's not even bothered about it, is throwing the sprues around going, yeah, this is okay, yeah, really good stuff, go out and buy it, being a shill, that's damaging. That's when you can actually drive people away. And I know people who have left the hobby space because they're sick of it. They're sick of seeing the boxes that they want being unboxed by some douche nozzle on YouTube, when they've begged and pleaded and scraped and tried to get that box. They've saved money from the actual job, right? Literally for months for this box set, only for them to all disappear within a few days, and that's the end of that. And they may get one for $500, $600 on eBay. Games Workshop don't give a rat's arse about you, the hobbyist. They don't. Because if they did, that Imperial Agents, Codex would have actual armies in it. if they did. I'm telling you now. You know, if they were a real company that actually cared about you, that codex wouldn't have Grey Knights in it, wouldn't have Sisters of Battle in it. It would have rules where you could take them, sure, but it wouldn't have them, you know, as one of the standalone people. You know, the Death Watch would have their own codex. It's just, it's low.
You've gone a very far way from, you know, you need to go back to 4th edition. This is the thing. All of the groundwork, I find it very. I'm going to go a little bit ranty here for a moment. I know I just sort of was a little bit.
Yeah, go
ranty,
for it.
So
go
I
for
do
it.
apologize.
That's the channel.
But if you need to go back to like 4th edition, the groundwork is being laid. Codex Witch Hunters, Codex Demon Hunters. There you go. Right? They were better representations of inquisitorial forces, the Grey Knights and the Sisters of Battle, and there was also a like supplement that was in White Dwarf, but it's a long forgotten for Death Watch that came out in a battle report, believe it or not. But I digress. We have a situation at the moment where the company really wants to nickel and dime people by undercooking their releases. The example I'll use for Heresy will be the Mechanicum release that's upcoming. You got Thalax, Thralls, one type of Magos, Castellax, Thanatar, and the Triaros transport. No Voltrax, no Domitar, no Myrmidons, either Secutors or Destructors. No Vorax, no Krios, no Macrocarrot Explorator. No, you get the idea, right? They're releasing like these small amounts of miniatures, hype people the fuck up for it, and then don't release the rest of the army. The Berserkers, the Khorne Berserkers release that happened with the World Eaters at the end of 9th edition 40k. They release all these new Berserkers and these bullshit 8-bound, awful-looking sculpts of like possessed dudes with 2 variants in the box, and therefore you get to call that 2 units, even though it's the same awful sculpt, and like a HQ on a Juggernaut, and I think some cultists, and they're like, yep, call it a day, that's a release. It's these really, really half-assed, lazy releases, and they're not functional factions. This is the big thing. They're not functional factions. And you'll have the shills turn around and go, how great is this? It's like, no, it's not great. It's not a functional force. It's not a functioning army. It's crippled in key areas on the battlefield because it needs X, Y, and Z added to it. But the company doesn't want to do the financial burden of doing a full release at one time of an entire faction and giving people that smorgasbord of opportunity. What they want to do is just release a little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe we'll release 3 units this edition. We'll come and revisit it next edition in 3 years' time. We'll give them 2 more units. And then we'll write their codex off the next week with the new edition of the game. And people will sit there, piss on you, and call it rain. And no, like it's bad form, because this becomes very difficult for the customer, the consumer of the product, because let's say you're playing Solar Auxilia, for example. When are you getting Ogrins, for example? You don't know. So are you going to get the Carnodon or the Aurochs in plastic? You don't know. Do you now drop a ton, and I mean a ton of money, on a resin miniature from Forge World? Or do you just bide your time? Right? In which case, do you now have part of an army that you bought in plastic out of hype, thinking that the rest of the range would follow shortly after, and now it's been a year, and hang on a minute, the rest of this range hasn't materialized? Because we're looking at that very scenario right now. What do? You've got something like 40k. You'll have people who want to play something like Eldar, and they're, I fucking love playing, Eldar, and I've bought new Guardians, and ooh, the Fire Dragon sculpts look a bit iffy and tiny, pretty expensive, and they're not plastic. What the fuck? I don't want to buy this. Now what do I do? Like, I can't use the unit I want to try. And yet you'll have reviewers come out, and they will ignore all of that and go, oh, how cool are the new Guardians? So,
it's
that's my
all
little
sub
rant.
No, it's all surface level. I mean, I mean, that's all they will ever do. It is because if a shill examines a product anywhere beneath the surface, that's when their logic starts to fall apart. And that's another way that you can sort of tell, this is not somebody you should probably be listening to in any serious fashion. If they start saying, well, like what you just said there, oh, aren't the Guardians great? Let's focus on them guys. Let's just, hand wavy. And I guess that's what turned me off about what Valrak said. It was like, hey guys, look how cool these are. Yeah, okay. But that's not a functioning army in a box. And those are all units you don't need. So, why? If I want that Laertes model, that Blood Angels, character, and I want the Executioner guy with wings, that guy Azeroth, whatever his name is, right? If I want those two models, why in the ever-loving Christ do I need to buy this entire box just to get those two models? I know they'll come out eventually, but you brought them out now, so why can't I get them now? Why are you fostering all of these other models on me that I don't want? And you're manifesting it as some sort of saving money tactic, but when you are the one who made all the prices in the first place. I don't want any more Assault Intercessors. I don't want any normal Intercessors. I just want these two models. Can I have those, please? It was like, well, if you want these two models, go out and buy this box set. It's going to be limited edition. That's the bad taste. That's when it starts leaving that bad taste in the mouth. That's when you start to drift and go, do you know what? I'm good here. I don't need, I'm all good. And they're going to do it to the Grey Knights as well. Primoris Grey Knights will come eventually, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to bring out, some new, or even worse, they'll do what they did with Crow, and they'll be like, hey, here's the new Castellan Crow model. Yeah, in with all these models you don't want. £70, please. It's like, it just irks me to hell and back, like how this company gets away with it time and again, because these people will review it.
You'll get a lot of people, and I know because I've had this argument, who say something like, why is this unit in this box? It's to ship this box, right? It'll be like a big named major character like Azagaraman or Eldrad, It's like, why is this character tied into a shitty box set that's usually, not always, but usually full of old sculpts, or older sculpts, or sculpts from the last edition or two of the game, or irrelevant sculpts in some cases, where it's like, okay, the only way to get this character, this is in shorthand, is you're really paying $150 or $250 or whatever it might be for the character, and a bunch of models that you don't really want around the character. And people find all sorts of creative ways to justify it, especially the shills, but the community in general. Like, oh, well, if you get extra miniatures, you can sell them secondhand. Well, you're not going to make your money back doing that. You've definitely got to sell them at like half price or something. So, there's that. Or, oh, but, this box set would make the core of a good starting army. So, are you starting army? Oh, no, I already have this army. I just want that character. So it's not useful to you there. They always find ways of justifying it. And then they'll say silly things like, well, that who cares if this character is locked into this box set? They'll be available separately later on down the line. So who cares? And it's like, well, when is later on down the line?
Yeah, that's it.
2 years? 3 years? There's plenty of characters and units who spend purgatory. It took like the Sultan Blackreach plastic orc death copters. I think it was like 15 years, 20 years before we actually saw plastic death copters outside of that box set. So, I guess eventually a plastic copter did make its way to outside of the box set. So got to give them their props there. But it's just a really sleazy tactic to upsell you. Like, hey, we know you want this character. We're locking it behind this expensive paywall. And then when it does eventually get free of that box, holy fuck, character prices these days, what, 6-8 times what the same character was worth in white metal, an 11 to 17 times more expensive medium, 15 years ago. It's like, I don't know about you, my wage has not gone up like 6 to 8 times over in like 15 years. I'm sorry, it just hasn't. If it is that expensive to produce in plastic, how, for a start, are you even sustaining this model? It just mind blown. and you see so much of that where it's like, remember the was it 8th or 9th edition? I think it was 9th edition, where it was the Necron Marine starter box for the edition of the game, and it had like the Blade Guard veterans or whatever,
Yep.
you know, the boys with the shields and swords, and a couple of characters. And when that made its way out as its own box set, it was like, what, 8 models, something like that, and it was like half as expensive as the entire like starter set was. And people sit there and go, yeah, that seems reasonable. Not everyone, but too many people. Too many people. It's like, if you don't want to be treated like shit as a consumer, maybe don't let them do it to you. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that was my first. So when I was working for G-Dub, the first thing that happened when I started working for them was Magnus came out, and 1,000 Suns came out, and that was the big hot model of the moment. And then the Imperial Agents Codex dropped, and then they announced 8th edition. You mentioned it before. They announced 8th edition almost directly after they've released the Imperial Agents Codex. I had 4 customers in my store who had bought that codex. I was blindsided just as much as them. I had no idea this was coming, right? And when I found out, I still found out a few weeks before they did, that 8th edition was on the way, and it was going to be this huge sea change in the hobby. And I was just like, oh shit. Like, I've just sold, 4 codexes and a load of really bespoke models from my computer to these guys who have always wanted, full assassin armies and things, and now it's gonna go. Like they're gonna, and of course they came in raging and just saying, what is this? Like, my codex is now useless. And I have to say the company spiel of, well, it's not going to be useless in a couple of months. For a couple of months yet, you can still get some use out of it. It's like, dude, how can you... Even me, as a manager at the time, or not a manager, I was a staff member at the time, because my manager wouldn't field complaints. He passed them on to me and my colleague. But we had to stand there and say this verbatim, but you could just tell we didn't feel it. It just felt icky. It was like, dude... You just released this codex. It's just come out. Could you not just leave it for a year? Why did you do this? You're wringing out every last penny from the current codex, rinsing them dry, and then going again. And what's even worse, there was no Imperial Agents Codex in 8th edition. Go fuck yourself. And that's like just the worst.
Well, they did it once. I can't remember which edition it was, which codex. But it's recent. It's either in 8th or 9th, and one of the codexes, they release it very close to the changing over the edition. They actually, I guess you could almost say, backtracked on it, and they actually turned around and gave a discount if people bought the new version of that codex in the next edition. I'm sure that happened. If anyone in the comments knows, please write it down, but I'm certain that happened. But then since then, they've normalized the behavior that, hey, we'll just drop a codex on you and just stiff shit, if it goes out of date the next day, well, that's just a damn shamey old shame.
That's bad luck for you, son. Anyway, that new box set's £125 and in limited numbers, so don't be coming down here with, This is what I meant. Like the whole unifying argument is that shills are everywhere on YouTube. They just are, right? In every walk of life, in every brand that you can have, there'll be a shill. But they are far more damaging in the Warhammer space, in the hobby space, than they are in most other places, simply because it is such a time-consuming and sparse hobby, in that Games Workshop make these things rare when they do not need to be. And that is their prerogative, and that's how they want to run their business. I've heard it from the horse's mouth. The reason why they don't do advertisements is because they want to be a bespoke product. They want to be a luxury product. They don't advertise. It's a dirty word to them. It's why they don't sell any other people's models or anything in their stores, because they're a bespoke company. It's why they saw, I said this last time when we had our conversation, the main competition Games Workshop saw on the high street was Ann Summers. who sell sex toys, right? But their customer service rating was so good, that's who Games Workshop were like, they're our competition. That's where we want to be. A bespoke luxury product that we can charge whatever we want for and have really, really, really good sales tactics to sell, right? And when you look at the two tactics that they do, you know, they are very similar. We studied them when we were at Games Workshop. When you go into an Ansummer store, no, we didn't walk in. Don't get me wrong. We're not walking in the Games Workshop T-shirt on, going, "Hello, yes, we're here to buy one of these clitoral things." No, it was literally going on their training websites and all of those other bits and bobs and looking at how they train their staff, and it is verbatim very similar. Very similar. The way that you're sold something from Ansummer's, the way that you're sold something from Games Workshop, very similar. They almost dry hump you out the store in the way that they want you to buy new things and to try and upsell you all the time. And it is a niche product that is very rare, but it doesn't have to be. That's the point. All of this is artificial. It's not real. Alright? Warhammer doesn't need to be rare. You don't need to have limited editions of the new Blood Angels box set. They make it that way because they want you to buy the product when they want you to buy it. Not when you're ready to buy it, when they want you to buy it. That's the whole point. They want to make all of the money now, and they want to make all of the money forever. That's what they want to do. These are
just enough hubris that they won't even listen to feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they don't like to do.
They don't like to do surveys, for example. And if they do, they like to construct them in such a way that the feedback you could give in the survey is not really feedback they have to listen to. They're not going to come across anything they don't want. They'll word it like, if you could rate how good we are out of 10, using the scale below, and they'll only give you the options of 7, 8, and 9, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like that bad level.
Well, that's why we're saying it's more damaging in our hobby than it is. We're not saying our hobby's a special little snowflake, even though it is. What we're saying is,
of course,
is that in our hobby, being a shill is more damaging in several different ways. You know, it's the mental strain it puts on the consumer too. As Mac had just said before, if you're a huge Black Templars fan, and they're bringing out a new Black Templar box with all new Sword Brethren and a new Emperor's Champion, it's all going to be in this box. Not that they would do that, they would release the Emperor's Champion in a box with old models so they can get rid of them, but let's sidestep that, we've covered it. Right, that's coming out. You have got no chance of getting that box set, right? It is going to be a really popular box set, you've got no chance of getting it. In fact, we are seeing a sea change, I will come back to that in a minute, because Skaven Tide is being sold at a massive discount in the UK now. Why? Because they called The Boy Who Cried Wolf too many times. They made it so that, hey guys, it's limited, it's limited, it's limited. So everyone's like, well, every time I've tried to get a Games Workshop product, I can't. So why would I even bother? So now Skaven Tide's come out, and people have gone, yeah, I'm not going to bother trying to get it because, you know, I'm not going to get one. And what do they have? Loads of Skaven Tide boxes sitting on shelves not being sold. It's finally, a little bit of it's coming home to roost now, and I really hope that more box sets suffer a similar fate. I really do. I hope that Games Workshop bring out more box sets that don't get sold. Because they've convinced you that you can't get it. It's such a niche product that you can't get it. But then you'll have shills out there who open the box set, who show you all the things you can't have. Because you're just a prole. You're just some peasant who can't get these. Even though you can afford it because you've saved up your hard-earned money, you can't get it. Why? Because by the time you'd saved up your money, all of the box sets were gone. That's happened to one too many people, one too many times, and now we're starting to see box sets left behind and not selling. And that, to me, is good, because it strikes them where they need to be struck, in the wallet. That's the only way Games Workshop will listen, is if you don't buy into this bullshit, and that's why shills are so dangerous in our hobby, and why, when I see it, even if I see it a little bit from people that I hold to a much higher standard, I need to call it out. Did you see that about the Skaven Tide box set, by the way? about that? Is it just
No,
a UK thing?
I actually wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
But that's hilarious. In Australia, I have no idea how it will perform, but I can see how things are sitting on the shelves anyway at Games Workshops in Australia, and I don't think they're doing particularly well here. And we've seen some severe changes in the upper management in this country, and basically Games Workshop. This is my again. I don't really have an inside line to the company, as you would be well aware, but I am a cynic. And one of my superpowers, they call me Macrodamus for a reason, because when I make my predictions, I'm usually pretty fucking good at them. Power of cynicism compels you, and I think right now, because they've swapped out basically the head of the company in Australia, is that they're going, well, Australia is nowhere near the numbers that it used to be. It's not putting out the numbers. Could the problem be with the product? No, it's not the product. It's not the price. It's clearly the people running the show. We need more pushy salespeople, and that starts at the top. Seems to be the way the company is going in Australia. Now, I do hear some whispers from inside, don't get me wrong. But essentially, they're trying to go the UK route. We've spoken more in depth about this off air, and I won't go too into it now because it's depressing. But they're really trying to push that, sales, just drive the sales to dig them out of their economic hole, because I don't think it's anywhere near as sustainable as they want it to be in the country. Because they're just simply too high.
Yeah.
The prices have just gotten so ludicrously high here, people are just not buying in as much. Obviously, the same old people will be buying into it, the tournament crowd, as it were. The people who are going to the events every year, playing with their minimum 3 paint colors armies, doing, with the whatever the current fashion trend is for winning events. Those people will always be there. But the regular people coming in off the street, buying the starter box that they like to buy, yeah, I think that's really died in the arse, because people come in now and they're seeing plastic boxes that cost as much as gaming consoles. That cost as much as, a week's rent. And it just turns parents off. The time of easy money is over with, inflation and interest rate rises and all of those things. Like, I know how much I'm paying on mortgage at the moment, and it fucking sucks. So for the people who are in a worse position than I am, I'm very lucky. My wife and I both have great jobs, stable employment, we earn well, and not a lot of people are in that situation. You have to spare a thought for your customers. Games Workshop, no matter how hard they want to be this, are not a Harrods. They're not catering to the wealthiest of wealthy as a luxury product. They're trying to cater to everyday schlubs. And I mean that in the nicest of ways, because, I was a schlub growing up. And the average person is more concerned about putting food on the table, getting to and from work, paying their bills, feeding their fucking children, than they are about buying models. Buying models is the distraction from all of the woes of their life. And if they've got financial troubles and this was their one way to fucking escape from it, well, now their financial troubles and their hobby just crossed over. And, you've not only taken the hobby off them, but you've made the hobby a key focus of stress, because now they've got to decide between doing their fucking hobby and paying their bills. And that is a rough place to put the average Joe. And it's not down to having more pushy salesmen, because more pushy salesmen, yeah, you might be able to get that sale. But do you want repeat customers who are happy with you, or do you just want to make that sale? And many pushy salespeople don't care about the after effects of what happens once the person leaves their store. And I've seen this, there's a fantastic story that one of my close friends, Liam, told of watching a homeless guy who just got his money off the government, to buy his food and that for the week, go into a Games Workshop, and they literally just spent the whole paycheck in there because they were talked into it. And then that homeless dude left there with all his new boxes, and he got robbed while he was asleep in the park. So he lost his whole government check for the week, and lost his models as well. I don't know what the hell a homeless guy would have done with the models, but they got their sale. That kind of ruthless pragmatism that comes from certain sales.
Well, that happened to that exact thing happened to a colleague of mine. So I'm going to call him Jim. I'm going to call him by his real name. But I had a lovely colleague, Games Workshop. Really nice guy. A bit dim, a bit shy, but a really lovely bloke. And he was really funny as well. We had a good laugh. So he got his first paycheck from Games Workshop. And our manager, this was before I got there, by the way. So I joined a month or two after this. And I got regaled with the tale. Our manager essentially sold him on a load of models because he had the 50% discount. He was like, oh, well, if you can get this, you can get this. And if you get that, then you can get that. And my poor colleague felt browbeaten, you know what I mean, into buying all of this stuff. I mean, he had several armies worth by the time he'd done his purchase, and he got home and couldn't pay his parents the rent. He couldn't do anything, and they ended up forcing him to, a month or two later, selling everything that he could. And he was driving around selling these models at a fraction of their actual worth because he just needed the money, because it came to the end of the next month, and his parents were like, yeah, I know you're going to get paid this month. Where's last month's rent? Where's we're all chipping in together for this, for what we're doing here. And that was him. He was done. Like his entire, he spent his entire work check on models. So it doesn't just work on customers. That was an evil thing for my manager to do. Like a really, really shitty thing for him to do. He tried it on me, and I bought one box of Grey Knights, and that was it, right? Because I was just, at the end of the day, I'm from the Northwest, and I'm cheap as fuck, so, it's not going to work with me. But, like, this guy spent his entire paycheck, his first paycheck, that his family really needed on models. Because he was intimidated and browbeaten into doing it. If you don't think that Games Workshop's tactics work, they even work on their own staff. So, this is why you have homeless people, like what Maka said, they're giving over the last bit of money to get their models. This is why, because it works. Unfortunately, it works. Anyway, that's a dour note for us to, but anyway, there we go.
It is a very dour note, but don't forget, and again, you want to talk about shills. This is something the shills also feed into, because they're feeding on the algorithm and they're feeding on the new hotness, the pulling up the picture. How cool is this model? Like doing all the shilling, just verbatim reading out your Warhammer community articles. I mean, I'm guilty of it in a way as well, actually. So don't.
You're critiquing. You're not selling. You're critiquing what they're saying. I've watched. Yeah. You don't do that. You do actual content. Go on. Sorry.
They will get these articles, they'll talk up the model, and often they've already got that model and they're already painting it, they've already created their content. It's in their best interest to talk it up. And I think they lose sight of the fact as well. It's very much that, well, I don't have control over what my fans do. I don't have a moral obligation here. I'm just a content creator. It's a very easy to play the moral, jump the moral hurdles that are required to do the matrix weaving out of the way of responsibility, as opposed to saying hey, actually, if I really talk this up and put the hard sell on my viewers, a lot of them might make the irresponsible decision to buy this. I'm not saying it always is the irresponsible decision. There are many people who watch YouTube who are very well off financially and can do whatever they like, in which case, okay, this doesn't apply to them. But a lot of the people watching YouTube are younger people. Younger people definitely don't have disposable income, and they should be saving up as early as they can in life, because let's just face it, everything's getting ridiculously more expensive.
Yeah.
Food, fuel,
property,
housing, you name it. Right? And they're going to go out and dump a bunch of this on brand new models. It's like, look, if your first time getting into this as a teenager, would you be dumping your money into buying the new Codiers, or can you find someone who's bought the new Codiers who's selling a second-hand one cheap on eBay?
This is where it's going to go.
You can't afford your hobby,
Yeah.
Let's just think where you can better use your money, and maybe one of these shills needs to balance out the content and go around and go, let's go on eBay today and see what deals we can find for a cheap army. For someone, balance out the how cool is this stuff that I just happen to have also been given for free.
Yeah. That's literally in a nutshell, isn't it? How cool is this stuff, guys? You got to go and buy that I got for free. Fuck off. Honestly,
Yeah,
God.
no pressure.
So I'm gonna put a motion forwards for you. I want to do a section of our videos called "What Macca is Working On." Right. So you've got a few video. If you've got any pictures there of anything that you're working on hobby-wise, send it to me. Even now if you can, and I'll whack it up on the screen, and we can have a little talk about it, about what you're working on right now.
Oh, yeah, hang on. I'll have to flick them through Discord.
This is how wonderful it is, folks. I knew you'd have something. Normally I would never say this to anybody off the cuff, but I knew you'd have something. Maybe there somewhere.
Yeah, I did finish the Dominators
oh, sweet. Right, okay. Awesome.
So, or at least the tabletop. I will go back and add a lot of extra fine details later, but I just don't have the time right now. I'm away like every second weekend or weekend at the moment with Scouts. I'm working full-time hours during the week, as well as doing Scouts some nights, and I'm also finishing my diploma in education on the side.
Okay.
Although I teach full-time, I'm going to the next... In Australia, you've got different levels of teaching, so you can teach it. Certificate 3 level, Certificate 4 level, Diploma level.
Is that age groups,
the
or
high
is that
one.
Just standards?
So Diploma in Australia is... It's the best way to put it. So like a level 3 would be a tradesperson, a skilled tradesperson.
Okay, right.
Level 4 would be like supervisory, and then level 5, so Diploma is like your management level stuff. So that's what I'm doing, is like my teaching management. And then I've got the choice of going down the university route and doing like my post-grad degree or whatever it might be, or masters to finish it out. So I've been doing all that at the same time. So I'm only working on hobby maybe 2-3 days a month. So I'm not getting an awful lot done, but I'm getting some done. So hopefully those send through to you.
Yep.
And they're not the best pictures in the world because I took them in the dark, practically.
I'll put them on screen now. Dude, Iron Warriors are just the shit. I said this last time, but they are. Sorry. Sorry, you Imperial Fist fans, but... You know. I love how your Iron Warriors actually kind of look Greek. Do you know what I mean? Like, they've got that Olympian styling in there, which is really, really cool.
Well, they're all styled to suit the Primarch Perturabo, but I printed these. These are not my design, though. I do a lot of 3D printing designs of my own, including I'm doing a whole Dark Mechanicum range at the moment, just for funsies. And I did a whole militia range for funsies as well, of like all the vehicles and rapiers and stuff. But this set of miniatures, I want to shout the creator out, but I won't, just because I don't want them to get some nebulous C and D. Because Games Workshop, who's not afraid of 3D printing at all, but has specifically hired a department of a couple of staff to go around and flag 3D printed designs.
On that, you know the Eman G thing?
Yes.
That got thrown out. That was settled. So it's all done now. He's free and clear. Yeah, so he said it was they dropped all claims with prejudice, which means they can't go back to him anymore. Like that's
Can't go back and pick it up again.
Yeah. So
with prejudice is what you want.
Yeah. The thing is, and I will speak to him about this, is that I'm kind of worried because looking at other stuff that he's doing in terms of 3D printing, that he is skirting the line legally with a lot of other companies too. Who aren't as litigious as Games Workshop, but still, it's kind of taking the piss a little bit, and I'm like, you know.
As I said, if you're gonna take 3D models, at least modify them heavily in some way. Don't just add supports and call it a day. If I were him, I'd be making if you want to make something like the robots or something out of Helldivers, cool, add a shitload more detail to them, do something, splice models together, don't take models verbatim, because if you hit and cut paste, that's
dude, the
that
one
is not
company you don't
changing something.
You don't want to fuck with Sony. because Sony will put you in a
Gotta-
box. That's it.
It has to be transformative work.
Yeah. If you're
Not
listening to this, man,
transformative, you have no protections.
if you're listening to this, man, be careful. You know, you got away with this one. I'm not gonna do another video on it, but you got away with this one. Be fucking careful, dude. Like, you know, I don't want to see somebody ending up in a box because you keep poking these bears and they keep taking their pound of flesh. The Games Workshop, you know, Sony will make Games Workshop look like they've just given you a little, you know, I don't know, man. You've got more balls than I do. I wouldn't be doing that. And Maka 2, if there is anybody that I know knows about 3D printing and what your rights are, please listen to this man. Because if even he's saying, yeah, you're on some shaky thin ice there, my friend. You know, like, you need to maybe step back a little bit. Just because if I was your lawyer and I was looking at your 3D printing page, I would be having a fucking aneurysm right now. I'd be like, are you? It's more money for me, but are you joking right now? Like, you know, just be careful, man. It's not worth it. But I'm glad it was thrown out. These models look amazing. These are really, really cool.
They're good enough. They're nowhere near the standard of what I can paint when I really put my mind to it. But considering I have to make an army, and I'm not just painting mine, I'm painting an army for my channel co-host at the same time for an event, and essentially I've still got another 20 models to build and paint for this thing, and I've got about 2 days this weekend to make it happen. If that. I'm so limited on time. This is what I call like bare bones tabletop for me. It's enough that I can put it on the table and not feel disgusting.
Well, thank you for giving your time to me. I really do appreciate it whenever you make the time to do a video with me. It's really cool. So I watched your videos for gotta be 2 years before I even started on YouTube. Not before I started on YouTube, but before it became a thing, you know. So, like, I remember, like, the first few messages we went back and forth. I was like, oh my god, is that a circle? It's really cool. But to find out that you're actually a cool guy as well, who will give me the time of day and actually do content with me, just, like, it's such a shot on the arm, and it's really cool. And, you know, it's a lesson in being kind and paying it forward, I think, because, you know, yeah, it's just really cool of you to give me your time, because I know how busy you are.
To me, I would give time to anyone I can, especially when I'm a big channel, quote unquote, and they're not. I can give them a bit of light, elevate them. The one thing I always sort of snickered at is when people who dislike my channel say, well, "This is why your channel isn't bigger." I'm like, I don't want my channel to be bigger. I'm happy with the fan base I've curated, as it were.
Same.
You know, it's not my living. Don't care.
Like I'm kind of the same. Like I've said to people a lot. People are like, well, you're not frustrated that you're not growing because you should be growing. It's like, well, my Discord's bigger than a lot of larger channels than mine, you know, and my community is bigger than a lot of channels that are larger than mine. They may get more views, but their viewers aren't sticking around. They're getting a lot of transitory viewers who will come in, see a few videos, and then forget about them. My viewers come in, they're very low amount of viewers compared to them, but they stay. And they watch every video.
Well, do you want quality viewers? You know, again, not to throw shade here, but take like a Discourse Miniatures. Every single video just about is a very clickbait title, so it naturally draws, and it's up to their subscriber count, yes, and they do get lots of comments in their comment sections, yes, but you read those comment sections on a lot of those very clickbaity titled videos. And you're not seeing people who are content with the videos. What you're seeing is people who feel like they wasted their time on the videos in some cases, or just outright calling it clickbait. I have tried not to curate that. I try to, exactly what I want to talk about in the video, I try to put it front and center in the video. You know, but if you go onto like a channel like that and you scroll through the titles of all those videos very quickly, you will see the pattern. That's the pattern.
That's the advice I can give to anybody who wants to start this. One, you're gonna need a lot of luck, number one, because you know we both of us got incredibly lucky because that's how it works on YouTube. Number two, you may do what Discourse has done, and you can do clickbaity titles, and you can try and rile up sentiment and negative or positive, doesn't matter. But that is building a house on foundations of sand. It is hollow, because eventually those numbers will stagnate. And
if people do want to get into this, they do want to become a YouTuber, it's surprisingly more difficult than you would think. Satisfying the algorithm gods and curating a community and all of like those things. But like, if you want to really have a go at it and do it, I mean, go for it, right? Who am I to say don't try it?
Yeah, if you've got passion for something.
But just be aware of, just be aware of what you're getting into, though. It's not, you will get a lot of negative feedback, regardless of the type of video you put out, regardless of the point or message you're trying to send, because you're stepping into the dirty, dark world of the internet. People are not inherently nice online because there's no reason for them to be. Some people just delight in the trolling, and if you're going to get into it, you have to be ready to wear that, and you've also got to be ready to wear a lack of success. If what you're producing doesn't just take off, you can't get upset about it, because you're competing with literally hundreds of millions, if not the low billions of people who are all putting shit out online. And your voice is one tiny one among many. That's why I try and remind people with my channel, like, I'm just some guy with an opinion who was lucky to find a few people who are willing to listen. I'm not the arbiter of what is right and what is wrong and the truth at the end of the day. I'm just one person.
That is the point, isn't it? Because I truly believe that our channels, plural, are... They will stand the test of time, right? They are, touch wood, but I believe that they will perpetuate and grow naturally in small increments over time to be very fulfilling and to actually be stable, because the viewers that we keep and the viewers that remain with us are the ones who enjoy every video, and so they keep coming back. And I've shared with other YouTubers, I don't make a lot of money on YouTube, right? And I don't think you do either, but I've shared what I earn with a few of larger YouTubers, and they go, wow, certain months you're earning more than me. Yeah, because my viewers watch my videos almost all the way through, because it's the quality of I don't have as many views as you, I don't have as many subs as you, but my subscribers are dedicated viewers who are involved in the community and feel seen and are having a good time. They're not people who are transitory. They're not just coming in because you did a good thumbnail and then they're leaving and never coming back. These are people who are sticking around. It's that the old Games Workshop analogy of the bucket and the water going into the bucket with a load of holes in the bottom of it. Well, my channel has less holes in the bucket than yours does. That's what it is. So the tap that's going into it is slower than yours. Yeah, but I don't have as many holes, so my bucket will fill up eventually. And that's the way you, in my opinion, you should do YouTube. Eventually, if you're hitting on good content and you're really passionate about it, there's no reason why you can't get a similar channel to mine, or indeed our circles, right? Because we're not here in the hundreds of thousands of views for most of our videos anyway. We're here with dedicated viewers, and again, neither of us earn a lot from YouTube. It's not our main source of income, but you would be surprised what you can do with a small dedicated fan base. You'd be surprised. There's and it's exhausting too. I wouldn't want to be a YouTube channel like that. I wouldn't want to be constantly chasing clickbait and nonsense like that. I pride myself in every single one of my thumbnails being funny to look at, number one, and it resembles what's in the video. Do you know what I mean? I get lazy sometimes and I reuse a thumbnail if there's two very similar stories. I'm like, do you know what? Why am I making a new thumbnail? If it's like, if I did the same video, like, not the same video, the same kind of video 6 months ago, but it's another hobby nightmare about a similar person, that kind of thing. Change it a little bit, throw it out, that's fine. But like, pride yourself on actually having content that's going to keep people around and has substance to it and depth, than just shoving out like, Games Workshop have done this other terrible thing now, and the hobby is over, and this got worse. I always see that from YouTubers. This scandal just got worse. You know, there's only so much you can breathe from negativity. You know, there's only so much you can do.
Funny enough, I didn't do like proper thumbnails, as it were, for a very long time, because it just wasn't that important to me. I was just like, whatever, it's just a thumbnail. I don't really particularly care. Of all people, it was Arch Warhammer who turned around to me and said, "You need to put proper thumbnails on your videos." So, like, he's got a point. So,
yeah.
You know, that's why I did it. But I had a degree of laziness in there. It wasn't that I was, it wasn't that I didn't care about the content I was putting out. It was just that it wasn't a priority to me. The content itself was. And so I was like, well, I don't care what goes in my thumbnail. It can be whatever, was how I looked at it. And I was like, look, do you want me to sink my time into that? Or do you want me to sink my time into the video? Because my time is finite. And then I would look at channels where, you know, one of the ones that kills me, is when people put themselves in the thumbnails, because I get the whole marketing bullshit of it's more iconic, it associates a name or a face with, you know, the content, and people like that. It's like, yeah, but I'm not there for that person, or at least not their face. I'm there for their words. And I get really, really angry when it's on Instagram, and it's like I was going to use a lot of pejoratives very quickly there, but I'll restrain myself. Some person who holds a picture of a miniature up, but their face is front and center. The miniature is basically lost to the background. It's like, what are you trying to show me? And more often than not, this also is one specific gender that usually when I've noticed this trend, and I've called it out before, and I've had female YouTubers actually say, no, you're actually right. So I don't feel too sexist when I say it, but a lot of women go down this path because they're thirst farming.
They're not showing the face either.
They show their face. they show their face.
And other parts of them.
And yeah, they often seem to wear low-cut tops because they're not trying to shill the miniature. They're shilling the body behind the miniature, which I couldn't care less about. You know, if pornography is free, people, you know, don't go lusting after women you meet on the interwebs. but I want to focus on the fucking miniatures and the hobby, not the person behind it. And I've noticed the best, most talented women tend to be the ones who stay behind the camera. Just a thing I've noticed. Like, some of them are just phenomenal painters. You know, it does a disservice to the gender.
I know a few who are in front of the camera who do a good job, but they're also dressed normally. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's fine too. Again, are they making them in front of the camera the object to be focused on, or
that's what I mean? Yeah, they're not.
About the miniature. That's really the differentiating factor here, and that is when we talk about YouTube shills. Games Workshop love those. They love female hobbyists. I've seen them with 60 subscriber count on YouTube getting free stuff.
Yeah,
and I look at, like, you know, 26,000 subscribers, and I go, yeah, I get why I'm not getting anything, because my tits are nowhere near as good to look at. I'm at peace with this. No, well, you know, I'm too hairy.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But I'm at peace with it, you know. You know, we can have a laugh about it. You know?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, we're not saying you shouldn't be here if you're female, because people will say, you know, someone will say, I don't know. It just. We're just.
No, I don't think any disclaimer is needed.
No, I don't think so either. But
women that we are
the modern
talking
world
to are more than intelligent enough to get exactly what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, we've done it again. We've
Yeah.
done it again. We came on to do a 45-minute video, and we've ended up being here for an hour and a half. So I'll call it there, so we can have a little chat when we go, because I've got to go to the gym at 2. What time would it be for you? 10 o'clock, something like that. Yeah. Anyway.
About 10:30.
Yeah. So I will leave it there. Cheers, mate. I will speak to you next time for another. I don't know what we're going to be calling it. Probably just ranting, just constant. The bile cast. I don't know. We'll see. Cheers, dude.
Well, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, no worries. All right, see you guys. See you later. Bye now.